Don't you worry, the clip's about to begin, but don't forget to subscribe. Or else. Don't make me turn this website around.
All right, we'll talk to Elle in California. Elle,
Hello.
how you doing? How's it going? And I hope you're gonna vote.
Thank you for taking my call. Yes, I voted by mail last week.
Awesome, very good. Elle, what did you want to talk about?
Okay, so I'm not sure I explained myself very well to the call screener, but what I wanted to talk about was kind of an approach to how to handle conversations, because I'm really into street epistemology, and it mirrors counseling in a lot of ways. I'm a counseling student, and I work in mental health, and a lot of the conversations that I watch the videos for, it's very, very close to what's called motivational interviewing. And it's a technique that's used for addicts to help them come to their own answers, their own correct answers on their own. But at the same time, it's kind of like one of those, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So motivational interviewing is a tool to help you kind of help them realize, or addicts realize, that this is something that is harmful to your life in what ways and what changes you need to make in order to live a healthier life. Well, street epistemology, I think, really mirrors that for the theism and what the effects that can have on their lives, and the fear that I think it really comes down to why a lot of people stay in. But what I wanted to say was like a technique that I've thought about, because my brother-in-law is pretty deep in this. I wouldn't even know about apologetics if my sister wouldn't marry him. So thank him for making me an atheist. But what I wanted to talk about was unconditional positive regard. It's another psychological counseling term. I forget who was it. Anyways, unconditional positive regard. You have to approach your clients as if they're good. You have to, it's kind of a humanist approach now that I think about it. But you have to approach them in good faith and with the assumption that, you're working to help them out no matter who they are. And my thing was, when I came out as an atheist, I was told, you're not an atheist, you're agnostic or whatever. And I hadn't done the research. I didn't really understand that those terms are not mutually exclusive. And so since I've been doing all this research and stuff, unconditional positive regard is kind of like what I've decided I have to apply to my theist family and friends, because the way that they tell me I'm not an atheist as if being an atheist is a bad thing. Well, I think what I plan to do is to convince them that they are also they're also humanists, and that being a humanist and being a Christian are not mutually exclusive terms. And that if we can get a humanist movement growing within Christianity, that it would really help people out of those, dogmatic, problematic, deeply rooted belief systems.
I like it.
Okay.
I like the sound of it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Sorry, I know that was a mouthful.
No, I mean, I like you approach them. You find commonalities, especially if you know that they are genuinely motivated to do good, and you help sort of frame common ground in that way. You create lines of dialogue. You start with, your shared humanity. I think that's fantastic.
I guess the
it really
question
is, because
are they
you can't deny your humanity, right? Sorry,
right. Well, the question I would have is, are they humanists, or do they currently? Because it sounds like, for example, I don't know that people like my friend Brenda, who I've done collaborations with, obviously she's a progressive Christian. I don't know whether or not she had ever referred to herself as a humanist prior to her interactions with me, but I referred to her as a humanist, and she accepted it as it is. Certainly. So the first question, I guess, is, are they humanists, or do they have any religious beliefs that actually are contradictory to humanism? And then second, would their humanism come first, or their religion? Does their humanism inform their religious interpretations, or does their religious interpretations influence their philosophy?
religious belief system informs his every ideology, I think. But what I want to do is flip it around, because the same way that he was, what the goal is in the conversation is I want him to defend the fact that he is not a humanist and what exactly that means. Because if I project onto him that he is a humanist, that he does actually care about people, that he wants what's best for them, he just can't not unbelieve or can't. And that's the weird thing with apologetics too. It's like, do you really believe this, or are you just, ironically playing devil's advocate?
Or reciting a script often enough. I mean, apologetics mostly is, most of the common people that you come across that are reciting apologetics are telling you something they heard or repeating to you something they read. They're repeating William Lane Craig, or if it's scientific religious apologetics, then they're Answers in Genesis people and the like. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting approach. Shoot me an email and let me know how it goes. I wouldn't want to muddy the term humanism at all, because I've seen people do that before, where they go, well, if a humanist is a person who puts the well-being of humans above all, the highest well-being of humans would be whatever God's will is for them. And so they will actually argue then that, fine, I'm a humanist, but I also believe gays shouldn't be allowed to have relationships, have sex, or get married because God has said not. And so even while they feel like they might be suffering, they're in God's graces, which is the ultimate place of well-being. So as long as you're not capitulating, I think it sounds fun.
Yeah. Well, and that was kind of just the way that I've been frustrated that I even have to waste any time on this, because there's just so many other better things that we could be learning about and exploring and like growing together, talking about, versus this one piece of fiction that they just can't let go of. So that's pretty frustrating. But I also wanted to have them adopt the term humanism, or not so much oppose it as they do, because right now it seems like he feels that those two terms, Christianity and humanism, are mutually exclusive. You cannot be one without the other. And that might be, it might be a lost cause for me at this point, honestly. But at the same time, I honestly do believe that he wants people to be happy. He wants the best for people. But like you said, he really does believe that, having your soul go to the right place when you die is the only thing that really matters in life. And it's just, I can't believe I have to work to try and convince them that this life actually matters.
I think the conversations might be great, but it sounds to me like the kind of family you have is similar to the one I might have. Well, mine are probably more fundamentalist than yours, but that the best course of action you probably have going forward is to just continue living your best life in front of them without their beliefs. Because that could be something that's awfully challenging to a person.
Well, and it gets so tricky too, because I'm a twin. I'm an identical twin. And my sister moved across the country 2 years ago, and she's having lots of children, and I have none. I've remained independent and, purposefully so, in contrast to her relationship and the stuff that she has committed to with starting a family and stuff like that. And I feel almost guilty, parading my fun life. My boyfriend is awesome, and he had this insane Halloween setup, and I wanted so bad to share it with her, but I know that I can't, because she pretends like she doesn't appreciate that kind of stuff, and it just kills me that, to think that she could look back on our memories of Halloween as a kid and have them be soured by her worldview now. It breaks my heart.
Yeah. I'm definitely not saying push stuff in their faces, but also don't go out of your way to hide anything that's bringing you joy, and letting people see you are genuinely happy as the person you are. I was such a mess of a person as a religious person. Nobody who knew me back then thinks that I'm anything but a better person now in just day-to-day interaction. So I have a little bit of, you can almost call that a type of a privilege, because the contrast is so stark. and this side of it is clearly much better. What about you, Seth?
Really?
I'm a twin too, Elle. I have a fraternal sister, right? And she's 5 minutes older than I am, and we are the most opposite people I have ever seen. Like, she is that straight up Bible literalist homeschool mom, name it and claim it kind of she hates confrontation. She hates debate. It's in every way we are different. And so I can relate. But I really had to make my journey really about my life lived on my terms. Hey, love you. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're safe. But, you ever feel like you're related to people you don't relate to? I feel that in a lot of ways. And so I have found people I have found a community who will, even when they disagree, respect me and support me for who I am, without that nauseatingly condescending, pious thing that families like to do. So, while I do love my family, we're not close. My family acts like family, and they exist in communities like the Thinking Atheist, and here and all around the world, and even my friendships that I have in town. It's sort of a position they placed us in, because theirs is a conditional love. They've closed off a part of themselves. And if that's the case, I think, life's short. Go where people will accept you and validate you for who you are. And if there's a condition in place, that probably answers your question for you. Okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I think my end goal is just to kind of bring them with me, because I still want them in my life in a deep way. And I feel like, oddly enough, their deeply held religious beliefs are what's causing that kind of shallowness that we have to have now. And I don't know.
I find it interesting that when the church does good work, it's humanism. Almost always. Like when they go out and they feed hungry people, and they administer medicines in third world countries, and they're helping to build things in their community, and they're navigating people through death in the family, bringing them groceries, that kind of thing. I mean, there's a religious window dressing, but what they're really doing is a human to human endeavor, humanism. So that's one thing I always like.
That is humanism too. I totally agree, and that's why I want them to recognize that humanism is often synonymous with Christianity, and they should acknowledge that more.
Well, if they're operating from a position that good works, good motivations originate from a divine higher power, they're probably going to resist the word. I wouldn't get too hung up on the terms. If they're good people, I think that's a good place to start. And if they embrace or reject the word humanism, I wouldn't lose too much sleep over that. Okay?
Yep. Yeah, I won't.
All right.
Thank you guys for talking about this. It really helps to hash this out with people that understand.
Yeah, you bet.
Right. Thanks so much, Elle.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Funny how we talk about our families. Like, I just want them to see the world that I see. I want them to see the beautiful people who are not like them, who are different in the best sense of the word, right? Because if you could see this larger, grander world where we're not freaked out all the time, and Satan's not under every rock, and we don't put up walls and borders and fences and barbed wire. We're not constantly freaked out about the end of the world, the apocalypse, blah, blah, blah. If I just keep thinking, man, if you could see what I see, you would never go back. I'm convinced of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But,
not to mention there's a pressure with being better than everybody else all the time. And so that's what I got from Mormonism. You're better than everybody else, and don't ever slack off on it. And the pressure and anxiety that comes with that, leaving Mormonism was an ordeal, and then it was a pleasure. Because the pressure of just being, and it's really funny because my dad is the first person who will call anyone who disagrees with him arrogant, and it's like, you literally believe you have the power of God in you, and you've taken hard lines on your will, no matter what's best for your children, is that they will only be raised by Mormons if you were to die, and there were children left behind, even if there were better options outside of that. And you're just sitting there going like, it's Mormonism specifically, basically, to be a good Mormon, you also have to be a type of narcissist. And if you aren't naturally that type of narcissist, leaving Mormonism, it feels amazing because you don't have to keep up these narcissistic airs anymore. Yeah. Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.